Are you on the edge of your seat?
Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams.
On today's latest trends in location-based entertainment.
Brought to you by the LBX Collective.
Your community to connect, engage, and inspire.
Alrighty, everyone. Let's buckle up.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to Sound Off with Kevin Williams, episode number 50. It's crazy. This is a big milestone. So super excited, bummed that Christine couldn't join us, but hey, it's all right. She'll be on 51. So excited for that one as well. But all right. Before we get rolling into checking out and discussing all the trends, we always have our Change My Mind. So Kevin,
it's downhill from here. It's the big one. If we're talking about historicals, as we've reached the big 5-0, we should also touch upon why we allow others to curate our arcade history. Really what I mean by that is we have such a rich and vibrant history in the video amusement sector, but it seems to be all of the historical aspects of that sector are being handled by other companies outside of the amusement scene. Our friends at Arcade 1-Up, famous for rolling out quite a large selection of classic retro mini cabinets or smaller, small-scale cabinets. We have manufacturers of mini interpretations of classic arcade machines. Some really beautiful ones out there. Numskulls if you haven't come across the company's recreations of classic arcades, they come in boxes that look like the original packing cases at Space Invaders machines. They come with a mini manual. They even come with mini coins to put into the mini coin mech. They are real collectibles. And I'm surprised that arcade operators don't have these machines available for acquisition at their sites, especially the retro arcade boys. Maybe I'm giving them an idea. But at the same time, we see, it's sort of like having classic cars represented by the motorbike industry. We originated these products, but we as an industry, especially the trade associations, seem to allow our history to be handled by others. Our legacy is vital. And by the number of retro arcade facilities that are popping up internationally now, I think it's important that we may need to look in the mirror and maybe take control of our historics. We have seen an example of this going on in the consumer video game industry, where a number of lobbying companies are trying to block collectors and what we would call retro salvage facilities and archivists from actually collecting the ROMs and the original code of games and representing them as classical items, because these video game manufacturers want to control how their classics are represented. Well, perfect example of how our legacy of our classics is being handled is the deal that Lego did to create the Pac-Man Lego cabinet. And I wouldn't be surprised if I could see one behind your ear, Brandon.
Yeah, look at that right here, exactly. I think it's interesting. So it's funny that you brought this one up, because actually. And this was not prepared at all. I have the the Atari box as well. That comes. You can play all the original Atari games, but it also comes with a 10-game cartridge here that has some of the original games. And I think what I found that they're doing in the consumer space is Atari, Nintendo has done the same thing with an original NES, like a little mini NES with the full-size game controllers. And doing that at the consumer
isn't actually them, really. I've worked
is
on a couple of projects. They've licensed it to another company who've manufactured.
Yeah, and so I find that interesting. And so I don't see why maybe Atari has found it better. And I'm just going to use Atari as an example because they've done this consumer device. But maybe Atari has found it better in the arcade, the amusement sector, to license their IP to people like Arcade 1-Up versus having an actually Atari sanctioned cabinet with a lot of the Atari retro games built in, like an Arcade 1-Up. We have an Arcade 1-Up in our home here in another room, and it's got a Miss Pac-Man, and it's got a Galaxian and a bunch of other great fun games, and the kids love it, and because they get to see what Dad used to play when he was young, and so. I just don't know. I agree with you. I see that we should be taking control, but I actually think it's falls on the manufacturers or the creators of these games even more than the amusement industry itself to worry about who's managing and curating their own arcade history.
Well, that's part of the problem, and I'm sure this is what I would be greeted with if I brought this up in front of some of the trade associations, which is the companies that produce those classic arcade games no longer exist in the sector, and we are an example of an industry where all of the people that created these fantastic, successful arcade products have either moved on or closed down and been consumed. So I think Bandai Namco is one of the examples. Sega Japan doesn't really have a representation in the amusement sector. It has been acquired by a secondary party, which is Sega Amusement International, who are not actually part of Sega, but they just license the Sega brand. And just to be clear, for transparency, I'm an ex-Atari employee, but I wasn't actually part of the original Atari. I was part of Infogrames, who then acquired all of the Atari properties, spun that off into a separate division, and that division then went off to become the Atari that we know now. An Atari that is licensing its IP and trying to buy back some of the IP that was sold, both for amusement and consumer, and then an Atari that is proposing to open up in Las Vegas a hotel entertainment facility. So they're proposing to take their brand full circle. I think if those companies were still in our sector and still strong, powerful individuals, we'd be taking a lot more control. As an industry, we are going to have to face the fact that we're going to be running out of classic original arcade cabinets. Soon those cabinets are going to be worth a lot more money in the hands of collectors and archivists than they're going to be in the hands of a retro arcade bar with people spilling beer and vandalizing them. So again, we will have to revisit do we start building recreations of original amusement systems without the CRTs, the cathode ray tubes, now moving to LCDs and creating high quality reproductions, as our friends at Arcade 1-Up have done. We have previous on this, our friends at Bandai Namco Amusement have been rolling out their Pac-Man Bash and their retro recreation cabinets. And I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a much more important part of the amusement mix of hardware development.
Yeah.
Moving on, it's that time.
All right. Well, let's hear from our sponsor, Intercard. Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Thank you, Intercard.
All right. Well, let's dive into the trend report. What is the state of play, Kevin? Oh my gosh, look at that. That is awesome. Celebrating the 50th. Woo!
Yay. Thank you to everyone who supports us, but also thank you to both of you, Christine, who's not here, and yourself, Brandon, for allowing me to bore the pants off of our audience for 50 occasions. They say the 50th is the hardest, and now it's downhill all the way from here. But it's interesting to show how vibrant our industry is, that we can still go into the depths of the trends that are defining our sector and even expand upon, now that we've taken sound off and split it into two with the openings and shut components now part of the LBX show. I'll get my terminology correct. But again, it's a big thank you for this opportunity, and I hope that our audience finds value from it.
Yeah, and I just find it that not only are we continuing to push, and that there is so much that over 50 sound offs we can continue to cover all of these trends that are happening and all of the openings that are happening. We were just as we see on that open and shut segment on the LBX show. But what I love is how much rich history there is, and I think that's what I loved about your meme question earlier, change my mind question, which is, what are we doing about not only continuing to innovate and push forward, but
Yes.
how are we making sure we're archiving and respecting and taking care of what's come before us as well.
I think it's essential. I was taught, my family beat into me, the individual who forgets his history will be constantly cursed to repeat it, the derivation of the Chinese curse. Yeah. And I think as an industry, we really should be looking at our history because there's a lot to learn. I'm an avid collector of information and historical references because I try and look for the similarities. And what we're experiencing now with the boom in competitive socializing and location-based entertainment is very similar to what we saw in the 90s with the explosion in the location-based entertainment sector, the boom and then considerable bust. But that's part of the benefit also, I would add, that what the LBX has achieved here is not just that we produced 50 versions of Sound Off, but they are selectable, collectible, and rewatchable. And that, I hope, will help augment our educational aspirations through our conferences and seminars going forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, enough of patting ourselves on the back. Let's jump into the trends. One of the big trends, of course, is what we're seeing in the competitive socializing sector, as I was saying earlier. And really, we're seeing the big players restructuring themselves and repositioning themselves, investing, putting more investment into their already existing chains and looking to grow those chains with more facilities. One of the best examples of that is Bolero. They've gone through a number of acquisitions during the year. So far, they brought about 22 existing bowling centers to add to their operation. They run both the Lucky Strikes as well as the AMF chain of operations with links to other bowling chains. And, our friends, Randy White, who runs an excellent White Hutchinson newsletter. I can't recommend that enough to people who want to get into the details and the minutiae of the information about the sector, where the Stinger Report is a broad brush covering all aspects of immersive entertainment and location-based entertainment. Randy nails down into the details of what drives the sector and what are the trends with numerical information, and he's done a great breakdown here from Bolero's latest reporting, showing us where they're making their money on average from their facility operation. You can see that the bowling still is the big spend. Then the food and beverage is a major component, which also mirrors the increased dwell time that these sites are seeing. What surprised me was how small a slice the amusement and others was taking out of that. And I would argue that maybe Bolero is beginning to see that they have priced their bowling experience, which is a per-time experience, against their pay-for-play experiences incorrectly. But that would be a personal opinion, and maybe there's a lot more reasons why that particular number is so low compared to what they're generating from their bowling, what they're generating from their food. Maybe there is special deals done where if you buy your bowl lane pass, you also get X amount of amusement activity, and that would eat into the bottom line. That would be free play, as it were. But
I think so, sorry, just add one bit of color. Having been to a number of Boleros here, or at least Bolero acquired centers. They didn't start as Boleros; they were AMS, but they're now
yeah,
Boleros. And I think that acquired centers like Mavericks here in Scottsdale are the exceptions to the rule, where they actually have a very large arcade floor and actually probably about the same amount of square footage for the arcade as their actual bowling lanes. Whereas in most Boleros, you've got a 40 lane bowling center or a 26 lane bowling center and maybe 7 video games, a couple of like redemption. And a lot of Boleros don't even have a redemption counter. So they might just have some merchandisers or something like that. And so it's not surprising to me that given probably out of their 352 or 346 centers they operate in the US, probably about 300 of them have maybe like 500 square feet dedicated to the actual amusements component.
I'm going by the Lucky Strikes. I've had a chance to walk around.
Right.
And quite a large. You're quite right. On average, I wonder what the percentage is if you looked at how many of these sites have over 30 amusement pieces, or how many of them only have 4 or 5 amusement pieces. A shuffleboard, not shuffleboard, sorry, a foosball table and a couple of pins. It's horses for courses. That said, the next week's Open and Shut, we have a number of new opening Lucky Strike facilities to talk about, and all of those are heavy on the amusement component. Anyway, again, another operation that is ploughing new investment into bringing their existing chain of facilities up to speed to suit the modern audience. Our friends at Hollywood Bowl have been going through spending, around $360,000 per facility. They've, upscaled. Let's see, I think the last count they'd done about 72 centers out of their 100 and something sites have been brought up to speed. You can zoom in for the details on the information on this slide below. I'm not going to repeat that. The thing for me about what they've done is that they've focused more on bringing their amusement space up to speed. They've looked at using new surfaces in their bowling environment, so you don't have to hire shoes, but you can use, your workaday shoes within the facility. You're not going to scuff the surface, and they've really improved their F&B, their cocktail, their social cohesion component. And I know in the next couple of months, Hollywood Bowl will be also announcing some other improvements to their entertainment mix, or additions, shall we say. So again, an example for all those operators out there that you can't stand still when you're looking at facility operation, that you constantly have to be mindful of reinvigorating the brand. Sky Zone again has been announcing that they're going to be rolling out some new locations. They're pushing very heavily on the US market, and we get to see that a lot from European brands that then look to grow their international offering. And Silicon Valley, California is going to be getting some. Atlanta, Georgia is going to be getting some. Nevada, Seattle, Washington State. It's a real growing entity, and for an active entertainment experience, because Sky Zone is not just about the trampoline, but it's all about the complete entertainment mix now. Again, you've got to be mindful that if they feel that they can roll out a brand new selection of facilities in quite popular urban districts, that there is a call for that out there, and the market is only growing. And only growing means that you have to also rebrand yourself. And, Optimum in France, quite a large chain. I'm not sure how many of our American viewers will be, or listeners will be familiar with the brand, but they run the Speed Parks. They also run Ellipse, which is a chain of virtual reality adventure experiences, which are in a pop-up kind of venue-based, unique visitor attraction kind of based thing. But anyway, they've gone for Hadrian. I call it Hadrian. My spell checker wanted to call it Hadron, obviously after the Collider. Whatever the name is, they say that it's about inspiring the players, and well, the verbiage is down there below. But again, this is an operation that has some very big plans going forward, and they're talking about nearly doubling their operation by 2030. So again, a lot of these chains are really going for world domination when it comes to repositioning themselves in the market. And a marketing team has managed to sell these guys on the idea of changing their name. And then acquisitions and mergers is the name of the game. If you're going to grow your operation, if you're going to go for full world domination, then that means you're going to have to enter the game of risk and start acquiring a lot of your competition. And our friends at AirHop have done a deal with the owners of the Jump Inc. Urban Playground chain, and their 4 or 5 or 6 facilities, I can't remember exactly what it sells. So 8 sites will be consumed into the 18 facilities that AirHop operates. It's an interesting situation here. The owners of Jump Inc. Have been rolling out a number of social entertainment venues. The company is actually behind the Monopoly Live visitor attraction, social entertainment attraction experience, and it looks like that they have focused. Rockefeller is now focusing more on their premium IP licensed based social entertainment operations, rather than having to take on the burdens of the trampoline entertainment space. And then we have an interesting situation here. As a avid collector of alcohol in glass form, it is interesting to see how the cocktail sector has embraced the social entertainment sector. And we're seeing venues opening up now, creating brand new cocktails and drinks, signatures, reviving old cocktail recipes. The mixologists of the social entertainment bars are as important as the games that are being played in many cases. They generate, as we've seen, quite a large part of the revenue stream for these facilities. And they also need to be mindful on the needs of their modern audience. And one of the things that is now being seen by the modern audience is not everybody wants to get drunk. That goes there. They're drinking socially more than they're drinking to get plastered, as it were. And so now a number of these companies, and Lucky Voice was promoting it recently, have started to produce a new menu of virgin drinks, still including the social ability, still including the vibe and zest and the fun of the cocktail, but without the bite of alcohol. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see that being a major addition across all of the F&B aspects of the industry. The nice thing about virgin cocktails is that you can serve them to your younger audiences. The other nice thing about the virgin cocktails is that, especially from an American point of view, it can protect, give you a drinks offering for your under 21 attendees. I would also point to the virgin cocktail drinks as being a little bit more responsible for those individuals that are having to drive, that they don't feel ostracized from enjoying the entertainment. It's a social inclusive experience rather than exclusive, and sometimes the traditional virgin drinks that are on offer can be quite boring in comparison to the excitement of the pina coladas, as it were. But again, for those operators out there that run bars in their facilities or run alcohol, I think it's time to revisit your virgin cocktail menu. Talking about revisiting, and we're at that time of the year or that point in the industry, I should say, where we are seeing offers after offers after offers after offers. The times are for offering discountings and special deals and package deals. A lot of those package deals are coming with the beginning of the holiday periods. We have the Halloween package deals where you get your space set aside, you get free cards, and you have the food. But we're also seeing the cocktail deals being done, the drinks deals being done, and the play deals being done. Buy the card at this particular price point and get extra points on top. It's interesting how these can be sold to the customers. You can't ram them down the throat of the audience that you have the database for, but at the same time, you need to be able to have the right signage and promotion that people are aware that these deals are on offer. To be frank, I understand that these deals need to be on offer, but I think it's more important that you teach your team, the human beings that interact with the audience that comes to your facilities, that they can eloquently impart to those guests coming to your sites about the special offers. What are your feelings about the discounting and the special offers that we see in our sector at this time?
Frankly, I think that running promotions and, look, promotions, by the way, doesn't have to be a discount. It could be a bundle offer. It could be something that drives a certain incentive on a certain day of the week. And, but, discounts are great as well, or extra value added game cards or things like that. So I think promotions, especially in our industry, we're trying to get people out of their home around holidays. Lots of people are busy doing a lot of other events in their homes, other people's homes. Driving that type of foot traffic is important, and promotions are a key way to do that. And so I'm not sure that, like, by seeing these things showing up may or may not be a key driver around, economic driver. It may just be, hey, seasonality. And we were trying to get people into, especially, frankly, I think we're going to actually see a lot more promotions and a lot more competition on this side of things as we actually see more competition with other venues that are popping up. I just want to pop quickly back to the Sky Zone that you mentioned at the very beginning. That they're opening 10 new. They're planning to open 10 new locations. Oh, we don't have to go back to the slides. I'm sorry. But they're opening 10 new locations. I don't know where they're going to shove another Gen 2 trampoline park. And yes, I know they're an active play adventure park, but they have all of the same standard traditional Sky Zone attractions that every other trampoline park has. And so I don't know where they're going to shove. I mean, they know where they're going to put them, but the point is it creates more competition. They're putting more of these things here because they're probably seeing same store year-over-year declines, and the only way to continue to show growth is to open up new franchises and open up new stores. And that's probably what AirHop is experiencing as well, and their acquisition of the other company and bringing on more locations. It's their way to continue to drive revenue growth on the top line while their same store is declining due to increased competition. So that was a long
no,
and bundled around this idea of promotions.
And much more eloquently formulated for our audience to understand that it doesn't mean that you have a successful model if you start rolling out large number of facilities. It's the swan approach, looking beautiful on top while the legs are going like crazy underneath. And don't be surprised to see a lot more of these large chains rolling out more facilities, but at the same time going back to their older facilities and redeveloping, and even maybe divesting themselves of some of the failures in that side. But you've got to look like you're growing, even though I would argue, and I totally agree with you, that there isn't a lot of call in some of those locations for another 10 centers unless they have information that they've done their research, as it were. And I wouldn't be surprised also if they're pivoting more towards an amusement mix than a trampoline mix. But again, that's just my opinion. Pivoting and waking up to pain and anguish. Our friends at McDonald's used to have quite an active entertainment operation until one of their executives cut the bottom line and decided to get rid of the ball pit and the problems that they had from hygiene and also their jungle gym and their amusement. And funny enough, we will be traveling in a couple of weeks' time to Orlando. One of the few McDonald's in the country, in North America, that still has an entertainment and amusement component as part of the restaurant's mix is in Orlando. And I always make a point of visiting it at least once during my time there in Frialpa. But poor old McDonald's has been in the ringer. You know, they've been getting some interesting media coverage because of one of their franchises has affiliated themselves to the political circus that's going on at the moment. But at the same time, only a matter of weeks after that photo opportunity, they then suffered an E. coli breakout, which was quite serious. While McDonald's was at the butt of this, it also saw a number of other fast food chains investigating their onions, which seems to have been the cause. Tentatively, the investigation is still going on. But again, I put this up here the same way that I put up the stuff about the security and for our operators to be mindful. I would also ask our operators who have fast food operations within their menu mix to be mindful of the onion problem that is being experienced off the back of this E. coli breakout. The companies that used to include an amusement mix into their business, not just McDonald's, but our friends at 7-Eleven. They used to have quite a large amusement mix, so much so that even in the Back to the Future #3 film, Marty McFly even mentions where he learned to shoot was at 7-Eleven. The issues over time, though, 7-Eleven decided to cut loose their amusement component, a mixture of needing the real estate that it took up, and also the issues of the salubrious nature of the video game audience that was being attracted to their convenience store. And they've decided to move on. And then, surprise, surprise, now in 2024, we see that 7-Eleven is going to be closing down 700 of their facilities due to a lack of audience. I'm not suggesting that they should put the amusement back in their mix. I'm just pointing out it's interesting to see that. That said, 7-Eleven is also reinventing itself, and they will be rolling out a number of new facilities that have a more convenience food and prepared food offering. So they're reinventing themselves to try and align themselves with the new audience. Could I suggest they put in a little bit of competitive socializing? I wouldn't dare do that. But a burger facility that is considering or is actively adding a little bit of amusement to their mix is Archie's in the UK. A number of their chains, a very colourful, friendly, social food establishment, not just a fast food in and out, but also a place to sit and talk and socialise and have fun. And they have parachuted in a number of entertainment offerings over the years. And now they've just announced that they will be dropping in a competitive socializing gaming closure from our friends at Conductar. And the immersive arena experience will go into their first site and is part of a rollout across the rest of their facilities once they've got the data of what the reaction is to that. It's interesting to see how some companies pivoted away from amusement, while other companies are now pivoting towards entertainment through competitive socializing, which I would argue is upscale amusement, but that's my personal opinion. And again, facilities in the retail sector that are borrowing the clothes from the immersive entertainment sector. In London, we have the opening of Future Store, which is going to be a cutting-edge retail establishment, lots of digital screens, a lot of gamification, as well as a lot of retail by display. I touched upon in the openings and shut component about how NEOM, the $500 billion development project in Saudi Arabia, is taking place. And they have the opening of one of the first entertainment offerings in that space. But, you know, these these type of things are really are drawing an entertainment offering as well as the luxury lifestyle, and we're seeing the mega yachts pulling into this man-made resort, as well as the ocean line cruises, and this island will have a dedicated amusement component. I'm not saying that it's going to be competing with your local amusement site, but it is interesting to see that the luxury venues now are adding a competitive socializing and an amusement mix to their offering. And I can tell you from experience, the NEOM rollout, they have multiple facilities within the Riyadh area, the Saudi location that these spaces are being developed on. Each one of them has their own unique amusement and attraction components to them. So watch this space. We're going to be talking about a lot more of these kinds of localities popping up in this region. Talked about the biz. Let's talk about the tech. And our friends at Valomotion have partnered towards with US Design Lab towards creating a retail unit entertainment facility that can be parachuted into their space. This is a kind of a turnkey entertainment offering building on the Valomotion range of products, their climbing wall, augmented reality climbing wall, their augmented reality trampoline system, as well as the famous Valo Arena immersive game experience. And it's interesting to see how many of these we're going to be talking about popping up in the international market through this partnership. VR. So we talked about the XR, the augmented. We talk about the VR now. Our friends at Front Grid, who create the parachute paragliding virtual reality experience system, they've signed quite a large deal to drop in a new version of their experience rather than just being a amusement game virtual reality competitive experience. They've now created a visitor attraction version where you can actually fly through the Niagara Falls area in virtual reality, trying to gain a high score. This is being aimed for the visitor attraction, and this will at Niagara Falls, and this will be opening up in 2025. I touched upon in the opening and shuts that we're seeing pop up VR immersive experiences that could be competing with the already existing entertainment experiences in the area. And Eclipse has been working very hard on their chain of venues. These are offering you more of an adventure in large number virtual reality format than an entertainment, a game kind of approach, but they're being dropped into high foot traffic locations. They just opened up in New York. They've also opened up in Shanghai. This is an important aspect of the entertainment mix that we need to be mindful of, that competition to our bottom line is coming from other areas than just other people opening up other similar types of facility. Virtual reality also has been deployed as a test. Company 302 Interactive, developer of consumer VR products, is now pivoted towards creating a location-based entertainment experience, and they've just run a test of their game, which is a kind of a horror escape room kind of experience, Otherverse. Perfectly timed for Halloween. They rolled out a test of this at a local night spot in Orlando, and they will be actually having the game on test during IALPA. So that's one that I hope to be able to report back from actually trying out. A little bit of a pivot here about speculation on the future. You know, I was talking earlier on about how we curate our past, and I'm now kind of mindful about our future. And a consumer peripherals company has developed quite a unique alternative to buying an arcade cabinet. You know, I talked about earlier the the future where we may run out of original classic arcade machines to parachute into the facility. Well, if you don't have the real thing, how about it in virtual reality? This company actually has the capabilities where when you put the virtual reality helmet on and play the cabinet, your controls are mapped perfectly to the virtual recreation of whatever arcade cabinet you want to play. It's a unique system, and it's quite an impressive system when it's done right. I'm not suggesting that all of our future retro machines could be recreated as virtual reality systems, but it kind of points towards a future where we're going to have to be mindful of how we allow individuals to still enjoy retro arcade machine gaming without having the retro machine physically there. Brandon?
Yeah, this is super interesting. But first of all, to just quickly reflect on the drop-in pop-up installations inside of existing, entertainment venues, like the one that's going into Archie's, I think is a brilliant move on their part, to provide some interactivity there. And again, just to speak to the increasing level of competition that's coming to the LBE space, when you have restaurants or, back in the day, the 7-Elevens, when that was originally the thing, but you're finding these other places where they're just dropping in amusement components, immersive components, and other things, you're just increasing that overall competition and eyeballs. To fast forward now to this, X Arcade, I think it's super interesting. We were just playing Beat Saber as a family last night using my son's Meta Quest, and we were having a lot of fun. And I could see that this being, instead of having our arcade one up here and we're all gathered around the arcade cabinet, why not be able to stand there, play the arcades, have it broadcast on our TV? We can all watch it and enjoy it, simulcast what he's doing, but he's also then able to play these retro arcade games and a much larger number of them than having to worry about what fits into a physical cabinet. So super interesting.
I think we're going to see something like this. I don't believe it will be virtual reality, but we will see some kind of interpretation of the generic interface that will be rolled out. But again, this is speculation on our future while still looking at our past. And then AI is everywhere, and we actually saw the first competitive AI experience take part of a exhibit for a promotion in Taiwan. But they created the Versus AI Street Fighter experience, which was a competition with the big cardboard check and prize money being handed out. What you had to do was you had to create a prompt in AI to match the picture randomly placed on the screen, and you were competing with another person typing in prompts. For those people that have no idea what I'm talking about, you type in lines of code or words to describe the picture that you're asking the AI to go away and recreate for you, which are called prompts. It was interesting. I was waiting for competitive AI gaming to actually happen, though this happened in a slightly different direction than I was expecting. But be mindful now that AI is the phrase of the month, or the phrase of the year, should I say, or the decade, the way things are going. Be prepared to see a little bit more of this kind of competitive prompting taking place. And then really something that's very close to my heart, it's physical to digital. Or digital to physical, depending on your point of view. The creating of spaces that are painted using digital experiences, digital wallpaper being used to offer a much higher level of engagement for the audience that is coming to your facilities, rather than just painting the ceiling and walls black and having black light carpet. We're now going to the point where you're creating a much more immersive and compelling environment, one that is attractive and one that draws people in, and what people want to immerse themselves in. Where previously the projection mapped approach to this was considered how things were going to happen. Projection mapping came with a lot of limitations, and now with the drop in price of the latest of the high resolution LED screen systems, we're now seeing them being used as digital wallpaper in the facilities. One of the best examples of that, of course, is our friends at Atomic Golf, who've really gone to town with their bar area and their social area to use the latest of the digital screen systems to create a compelling environment. I don't know if you guys had a chance to visit Atomic Golf when you were in Las Vegas last.
Did have a chance to visit Atomic Golf, and was both impressed and sickened by it, and sickened by it purely by the lack of, I mean, the enormity of the space in the venue, and while many of the bays were filled, to be fair, the rest of the space was completely vacant and empty. I mean, the number of tables for their bar, they have 3 bars. Every bar seat at the bar was empty. The tables around in the areas were empty. There were people in the bays playing golf and eating food and having fun. So like that was the case, but the rest of the size of the facility was just completely underutilized. So it's an impressive facility, but definitely I don't see how it continues to live on.
Vegas is a cruel master. I have seen brands open and close quite quickly there, and it's part of the reason why Vegas is used as a melting pot for new brands. You know, a number of the UK social entertainment brands have parachuted into Las Vegas after moving into North America to prove that they can survive in these shark-filled waters. It would be a shame if Atomic Golf jumps the shark, pardon the metaphor, and doesn't succeed. I think it's got the components of being a success, but success isn't just in the creation; it's also in the operation. And it's going to be interesting to see how they pivot and draw in an audience. And I think, you know, promotion and discounting maybe, and maybe parachuting in a few more entertainment offerings. The reports I got from a lot of the people who've been keeping an eye on the site after the opening for me are talking about there's a lot of space there that could be populated with secondary and tertiary amusement components. You know, They were surprised that there wasn't more amusement machines in the space. They were surprised that they hadn't put pinball in there. They were surprised that maybe some social entertainment experiences weren't put into there. Though I would also expect that the owners of that facility have already dropped quite a pretty penny to develop the site, and they may not have deep pockets to add more entertainment. We will wait and see. I will be definitely giving a detailed report of 12 months on when we visit the facility for Amusement Expo in March next year. Anyway, on that interesting note, is there anything else that you want to add?
No. I mean, one last thing I'll say about Atomic Golf is I completely agree with you. There's more than enough space to add in additional amusement components. I mean, significant space to add in additional amusement components. There's no reason why there shouldn't be a full 9 to 18 hole mini golf course spread throughout some of the bottom area, where right now they have just a few sparse couches and some cornhole spots just thrown in there. Not even if like just like ones they went and bought off of Amazon.com and threw out there. So anyway, there's a lot to be improved there, but again, amazing facility. And if I think they increased their attraction mix, they could see something really interesting and take off there because it is lacking. Vegas is lacking some of that stuff. So.
Yeah, well, Vegas is going to be getting Activate. I think they've got a flight club already. You know, we're due to see and a putt shack, of course. We're due to see a lot more social entertainment being parachuted into the casinos. The casinos are moving away from their sports betting. That's freeing up real estate, but also we have to be mindful that it's difficult to have entertainment in Vegas. We've been here before, remembering our history. The last time Vegas tried to embrace the families by building mini theme parks on property, and that didn't go particularly well. Now pivoting towards competitive socializing venues, may be popular with an audience that is moving away from table games, but also it has to be the right mix there, because I don't think if you can't draw the audience, it's very expensive to operate facilities in Vegas.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that was an invigorating Sound Off number 50, and come up next week. Stay tuned for Sound Off number 51. See you all soon.
Bye.